Hi, this is Anil with a video tutorial for the YouTube channel Learning Like on C Programming. In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how we can create a temporary file in C using tmpfile function. So first we're going to see the syntax, and then we're going to see how we can create the temporary file, how we can write data to that file, and how we can read from that file. So this temporary file function is not going to take any arguments, and it's going to return address of a structure of type file. And this function creates a temporary binary file, and it opens it in W+B mode. So if there was any error while creating the file, this function is going to return a null value. So now we're going to see how we can use this in our program. So for the demonstration purpose, I have created a file pointer tmp, and then I'm going to be using that temp file function. So it's going to be tmpfile, and we don't need to pass any arguments, and we're going to store the return address in our tmp pointer. So it's going to be tmp equal to tmpfile. The advantage of using this temp file function is, if you want to process a lot of data in your program, and where the variables are not the convenient options, then you can use this temp file function, and you can create a temporary file, and you can write data to that file, and also you can read that data when you want. So another thing is, the temporary file created will be removed when your program terminates, or you close that file using the fclose function. So you don't need to worry about closing that file. Once your program terminates, automatically that temporary file will be deleted. Okay, now we're gonna see whether the file has been opened successfully or not. So I'm gonna use the if statement. Temp is not equal to null, which is gonna mean that the temporary file has been created successfully. We're gonna say that to the screen using the put as function, and I'm gonna say temp file created. Else, if the return value is null, then it's gonna mean that the function has failed to create the temporary file. So we're gonna print that to the screen also. I'm gonna use the put as function, and I'm gonna say unable to create the temporary file. So now we're gonna see how we can write some data to this temporary file. Okay, before that, I'm gonna save this one, execute, compile, and run. Now it says temporary file is created. And also another thing is, that file name of this temporary file will be automatically selected by the compiler, and it will be different from any other files present in the disk or folder. And also you don't need to worry about this file name. So when I close this one, the file will be automatically deleted. So now we're gonna see how we can write some data to this temporary file, and also how we can read that data from that file. So just for the demonstration purpose, I'm gonna create a character array, and I'm gonna be calling this one as data, and let me initialize this one here, and I'm gonna initialize this one to hello learner. Then we're gonna create a length variable, which is gonna store the length of this data array. That's why to get the length, I'm gonna use the strlen function, which returns the length of the string. And also I'm gonna create a counter variable to loop through all these characters and write to the file. So it's gonna be counter, and I'm gonna initialize this one to -1. Next we'll be creating this temporary file. Then we are checking whether the file has been created successfully or not. If the file has been created successfully, the temporary file has been created successfully, then we will be writing to that file. So I'm going to use the while loop. So it's going to be while, and we're going to write plus plus counter. We are incrementing the counter variable value. When we use plus plus, it's going to be 0, which is less than length. If this counter variable contains a value which is less than the length of this string stored in this data array, then we will be writing each character to the file. I'm going to use f putc function, and we need to pass the character first, so it's going to be the character stored in the data array at the position counter, and after that we need to pass the file pointer, so it's going to be tmp. Now this while loop is going to write all the characters of this data array to this temporary file. The next thing we want to do is we just want to print out the data from that file, so I'll be using the while loop again, and I'm going to use the evof function. This evof function is used to determine whether we have reached the end of the file, or whether we have processed all the content of the file or not. So if you don't know about this evof function, please watch my other video tutorial on it. We need to pass the file pointer, it's going to be tmp, and also we need to use a not operator. Then I'm going to use the getC function to read the character from the file, so it's going to be getC. We need to pass the file pointer, which is tmp, and also I'm going to use the putchar function to print that character reader from the file to the screen. So like I know that I'm not using any variable to store the character read from that file. I'm just directly printing that, or I'm just passing the output of this getC function to this putchar function. So I'm going to be saving this one, and then we need to call the rewind function here. That's because once we write some data to the file, the file position indicator will be incremented, and it will be at the end. We need to reset that. So if you don't know the importance of this rewind function, please watch my other video tutorial on the rewind function. So I'm going to use that function here. It's going to be rewind, and we need to pass the file pointer. It's going to be tmp. Now I'm going to save this one, compile and run. So you can see here temporary file created, and also hello learner, which is the data reader from the file. And the last thing I want to teach you is how many temporary files can be created, and how many files can be opened at a time. So I'm gonna be minimizing this one and open up your my computer, and open up the partition where you have installed the divcpp. Mine is in the C drive. Open up the include folder and search for stdio.h header file. Open that file and search for tmp max. So this defines the maximum number of temporary files that can be created in your program, but we can only open fopen max number of files at a time. So you can create maximum fopen max number of temporary files in your program. So this is it, guys. This is about creating a temporary file in C. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I see you in the next tutorial.